Okay, so this here is my final explanation for the phonetics class. In this explanation, we're going to go over place, manner, and voicing, cognate pairs, vowels, and how they relate to the acronym HALT, front vowels, monophthongs and diphthongs, central vowels, back vowels, and diphthong vowels. So to start off, what are place, manner, and voicing? So when it comes to the classification of consonants in the English language, there's three ways to classify these consonants. The three categories are what we will cover next. There's place of articulation, and place of articulation is where the specific articulators are used in the production of a certain phoneme. This can also be explained as to where the vocal tract is constricted when producing the consonants. And the places of articulation are bilabial, labiodental, interdental, alveolar, palatal, velar, and glottal. So for me, a fun way to remember is I made up a sentence that goes along with people in my family. It's not a sentence I would normally say, so it's easy for me to remember, and that is that very laden upon vastly gazing. So we'll start with the bilabials. Bilabials are sounds that are produced using both lips, and the phonemes are p as in purple, b as in bubble, m as in mama, and w as in winter. Next we have the labiodentals. The labiodental sounds are produced by placing the upper front teeth on the bottom lip. Here you can see that those top teeth are being pushed down on that bottom lip. And the labiodental phonemes are f as in family and v as in violet. So the interdentals are going to be sounds that are produced when the tongue contacts the teeth. The interdental phonemes are going to be the th as in think, and then the v as in this. Next are the alveolars. The alveolar sounds occur when the tongue typically contacts the upper alveolar ridge. The alveolar ridge is the ridge right behind the top front teeth, and if you stick your tongue up there, you can feel it. It's a little bit of a bump. And then we have, for those phonemes, t as in top, d as in drop, s as in sand, z as in zoo, n as in noon, and l as in lay. And here you can kind of see the general area of where your alveolar ridge is. Next we have the palatals. The palatals are going to be those sounds that are produced when the tongue contacts some portion of the hard palate. And your hard palate is when you stick your tongue up in the roof of your mouth, that rigid part, that's going to be your hard palate. So the palatal phonemes are going to be the sh as in she, the j as in vision, the ch as in church, the j as in job, the y as in yellow, and the as in right. We then have the velar sounds, and velar sounds are produced when the tongue makes contact on or around the velum, and the velum is the soft palate of the mouth. And the soft palate is, if you continue all the way back to the end of where the rigid part of the roof of your mouth is, you'll feel that it gets softer, and that's the soft palate. So the velar phonemes are going to be the k as in king, the g as in green, and the ing as in king at the end. And then the glottals are produced by narrowing the glottis and abducting the vocal folds to create friction. So you have the h as in hello, then you have the glottal stop, and the glottal stop is where it just stops. So if you say metal, you can tell there's metal, it can sound like a variant of the T, but it's also in the word mountain, you hear that there. Okay, so that brings us to voicing, and voicing is a classification that's based on the vibrations of the vocal folds or the lack thereof of vibrations in the vocal folds when you're trying to produce a phoneme. If there is a vibration, it's voiced, and if there's not one, then it's voiceless. These are the voiced phonemes, just to name a few: b, w, m, v, d. And then you have the voiceless phonemes. The voiceless phonemes are like p, f, th, th, that. Those right there. So that brings us to cognate pairs. So what are cognate pairs? Cognates are phonemes that only differ through being voiced or voiceless. So you have things such as b and p. You have b, p. They're made the exact same way, but when you make that B, there is a vibration, whereas in the P, there's not. So there's a few here, and these are all the ones that are always going to be together. And this is actually an F, not a V. Okay, so next we have the manner of production, and manner is the way that the path of air is obstructed when producing a consonant. So we have stops, fricatives, affricates, nasals, liquids, which are broken down into laterals, and rhotics, and then we have glides. So a fun way to remember those is to come up with another sentence as well. For me, again, it's a sentence I would never say, but I can remember it. It's Seth fell and never let little Rebecca go. So with the stops, stops are when the consonant is produced and there's a complete obstruction of the airstream, and there is a buildup of pressure and then a release of air, and these can also be referred to as plosives. And the stop phonemes are going to be B as in bubble, P as in purple, T as in top, D as in drop, K as in king, and G as in green. Then you have the fricatives, and the fricatives are consonants that are produced by forcing the air through a narrow channel that is formed by two separate articulators in the vocal tract. And the fricative phonemes are listed here: the family, sand, think, she, hello, zoo, the, this, and Z as in vision. Then you have the affricates. The affricates are phonemes that have characteristics from both the fricative and the stop categories. That's going to be the ch as in church and the j as in job. That's then the nasals. The nasals are phonemes that are produced when the airstream is completely blocked from entering the oral cavity and it's forced out through the nasal cavity. There's only 3 of those, and it's going to be n, and ing. Then you have the liquids. The liquids, like I said, are broken down into laterals and rhotics. The laterals, there's only one. It's an L and lateral. It's easy to remember, like lay and rhotics. Same here, R, rhotic, right. That's those. Then you have the glides. Glides are phonemes that are produced by continued gliding motion of the articulators into the following vowel. So the glide phonemes are going to be the y as in yellow and the w as in winter. Next we have the vowels. So vowels are categorized in 4 different ways, and that can be represented by the acronym HALT. That's going to stand for tongue height, tongue advancement, lip rounding, and the tenseness and laxness of the vocal folds. You can use the vowel quadrilateral to help you classify some of these. It can be used to determine tongue height and tongue advancement. So what is tongue height? Tongue height is determined by how high the tongue is in the mouth when the vowel sound is produced. And vowels can be high, mid, low, high mid, or low mid. Then there's tongue advancement. Tongue advancement is determined by how far forward or how far backward the tongue is in the mouth when the vowel is being produced. Then there's lip rounding, which is determined whether your lips are rounded or not when the vowel is produced, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And then there's tenseness and laxness of the vocal folds. Tense vowels are articulated with greater muscle effort and longer durations than the lax vowels. Okay, so that brings us to the vowels themselves, and we'll start with the front vowels. The front vowels are the ones that you'll find in the front or the first column of that quadrilateral, and there's 5 of those. You have this one here, which is high, front, unrounded, and lax, and some examples of the sound this one makes is the E, so see and heat, and these are the words transcribed so you can see what those look like. And then we have this one here, which is high, front, unrounded, and lax, and it makes the I sound, such as hit and sit. And then we have the A sound, which is high, mid, front, unrounded, and tense. Some examples of this one are going to be ate, say, and birthday. So if you'll notice, there's 2 different ways to transcribe that A sound. So the one with the single phoneme is going to be a monophthong, and the one with the 2 is going to be a diphthong. So a monophthong is used when the vowel's in an unstressed syllable, so like in Sunday, the A is not the stressed part, and then a diphthong is going to be used when the vowel is in that part, as in bathe. The A is the longer held out part. So nouns, if they're multisyllabic, are going to stress in the first syllable, while verbs are going to stress in the second syllable. Okay, so then we have the rest of the front vowels, and that's going to be the epsilon, low, mid, front, unrounded, and lax. And some examples are met and bed, so it makes that sound. And then you go to the ash, and that's a low, front, unrounded, lax vowel. And some examples of that are going to be the cat and black. So that brings us to minimal pairs. So what are minimal pairs? Minimal pairs are words that only differ by one phoneme. So with the front vowels, you have the E versus the I, such as in beat, bit, seat, sit, feet, fit. Then you have the E versus the A. So bed, bad, fed, fad, head, had. Okay, so that brings us to the central vowels. And the central vowels can be found in the middle column of the vowel quadrilateral, and they can be front central, mid central, or back central. So first off, we have the schwa, which is a mid central unrounded lax vowel. Some examples of that are the in tuna and alone. You can see it there represented by the upside down E. Then we have the wedge or the caret, and it's a low mid back central unrounded lax vowel. It's the stress version of the schwa, which is just what we looked at. So they're going to make the same sound. You have rub and trouble. Then you have the right hook epsilon or the schwar, which is a mid central rounded lax vowel, and it is always used to transcribe the end of a ER or an sounding word. It's not always represented by ER. It could be OR. It could be many different things. There's many allophonic variations of that. Some examples are going to be labor and winter. They both end that sound. And then there's the right hook reverse epsilon. This is a mid-central rounded tense vowel. And some examples of it are furnace and worry. And just like the schwa and the wedge, the schwar and the right hook epsilon have the stressed and unstressed relationship. The right hook reverse epsilon is the stressed one, while the schwar is the unstressed one. So stressed versus unstressed examples are here. You can see that there's the E, the upside down E versus the wedge, which is going to be the sound. So roasted, rub, ketchup, undone. And then there's the labor and murder. They make the same noise or the same sound, but they're represented differently because of stress. And then that brings us to the back vowels. The back vowels can be found in the last column in the vowel quadrilateral here. You have this one first, which is a high back rounded tense vowel. And some examples of this one are going to be the chew, so the U sound, like in chew, and in cucumber, the U sound. Then you have the upsilon, sometimes known as the upsilon. It's a high back rounded lax vowel, and some examples are put and stood, so it makes that sound. And then we have the O, which is a high mid back rounded tense vowel, and you have, where it's unstressed, you have riboflavin and prohibit, and then you have cone and probate, and just like the others, some are unstressed and some are stressed. It's just the monophthong is unstressed and the diphthong is stressed. Then you have the open O, which is a low mid back rounded tense vowel, and some examples of it are the word autumn and wrong. Something about this one is that it can be difficult for people who are learning to transcribe to pick up on, because in some regions their dialects can make this vowel completely obsolete, and it morphs into the script A phoneme, which is a low back unrounded tense vowel, and it makes the ah sound, like in father and rotten. And this is actually the only unrounded back vowel in American English. So then we have diphthong vowels. These don't really have names, but it's putting some sounds together, like the I sound, and then we have the, like in sour and around, and then we have the oi sound, and then we also have the sound, like where and air, not the sound, but the air sound, and then the like near and here. And then we have pure and tourist. So this is my full name, and this is what it looks like in being transcribed. Katie Brooklyn Palmer. And then if I had a license plate, it would say Caddy B, because that's a nickname. All my friends call me that. And this is the transcription of that. And that is the end.